Welcome to today's video. I hope you're having a wonderful day today, and if you're not, I hope this video can bring you a little bit of comfort. So first off, Happy New Year's, Happy 2022. 2021 has been such a long and crazy ride. Some quick life updates. I went to WDI, which is Winter Debate Institute, with Incubate Debate, and I want to give them a big thank you. I don't know if the people will see this. The coordinators, James Fishback, Layla Christie Washington, all the students, they really made it such a memorable experience. I went there during the last week of my Christmas break. School starts back tomorrow for me. But I'm so thankful I went, and I would have loved to make it a vlog or experience for y'all to watch. However, we got our phones taken away, and I really do think that was for the best. And it was so stressful. I really just needed to focus on my speeches and what I was doing. Up next, I had a lot of Christmas videos planned. Those aren't going to be coming out. I ended up not recording any of them. But I have a lot of things in the making right now, and as you know, and as you all know what they say, good things take time. They also take a lot of phone storage too, so that's another thing. I'm working towards getting a camera so I can record and have footage like longer amount of time, and I don't have to worry about running out of storage, so I can create content that makes me happy to the best of my abilities, so then you guys can be getting my best quality work. But for now, what I thought would be an easy video to make and record, however this is like my 7th time recording this, I have a complete edition of the Brothers Grimm's Fairytales. And growing up, I haven't seen a lot of the Disney classics. My friends make fun of me all the time. I haven't seen Mulan, haven't seen Snow White or Cinderella. There's so many more, because I always loved scary stories and scary movies growing up. And so the fact that a lot of like our fairy tale and childhood stories and movies that we know were based on some twisted version, I love that. And so I have this, and I haven't read any of them, and as you can see, there's a lot. I've only read one, and it's this first one that I'm about to read to you, but the artwork is amazing. I completely adore it, and I'll be sure to put up pictures of them as I go along. And I love the cover. I want more books like this, like collector edition books for classics. But I'm going to be reading the first story, and I thought this would just be a nice chill video and maybe make this a series. So the first story, the only real Disney movie or modern story I can link it to is like The Princess and the Frog, and it is called The Frog King. In old times, when wishing still helped one, there lived a king whose daughters were all beautiful, but the youngest was so beautiful that the sun itself, which had seen so much, was astonished whenever it shone in her face. Close by the king's castle lay a great dark forest, and under an old lime tree in the forest was a well. And when the day was very warm, the king's child went out into the forest and sat down by the side of the cool fountain. And when she was dull, she took out a golden ball and threw it up on high and caught it. And this ball was her favorite plaything. Now, it so happened that on one occasion the princess's golden ball did not fall into the little hand which she was holding up for it, but on the ground beyond, and rolled straight into the water. The king's daughter followed it with her eyes, but it vanished, and the well was deep, so deep that the bottom could not be seen. And on this she began to cry, and cried louder and louder, and could not be comforted. And as she thus lamented, someone said to her, "What ails thee, king's daughter? Thou weepest so that even a stone would show pity." She looked around to the side from whence the voice came, and saw a frog, stretching forth its thick, ugly head from the water. "Ah, old water splasher, is it thou?" she said. "I am weeping for my golden ball, which has fallen into the water." "Be quiet and do not weep," answered the frog. "I can help thee." But what wilt thou give me if I bring thy plaything up again? Whatever thou wilt have, dear frog, she said. My clothes, my pearls and jewels, even the golden crown which I am wearing. The frog answered, I do not care for thy clothes, thy pearls and jewels, or thy golden crown. But if thou wilt love me, and let me be thy companion and playfellow, and sit by thee on thy little table, and eat off thy little golden plate, and drink out of thy little cup, and sleep in thy little bed, if thou wilt promise me this, I will go down below and bring thee thy golden ball up again. Oh yes, she said, I promise thee all thou wishest, if thou wilt but bring me my ball back again. She, however, thought, how silly the frog does talk. He lives in the water with the other frogs, and croaks, and can be no companion to any human being. But the frog, when he had received this promise, put his head into the water and sank down, and in a short while came swimming up again with the ball in his mouth, and threw it on the grass. The king's daughter was delighted to see her pretty plaything once more, and picked it up and ran away with it. Wait, wait, said the frog, take me with thee. I can't run as thou canst. But what did it avail him to scream, his croak, croak, after her, as loudly as he could? She did not listen to it, but ran home, and soon forgot the poor frog, who was forced to go back into his well again. The next day, when she seated herself at table with the king and all the courtiers, and was eating from her little golden plate, something came creeping, splish splash, up the marble staircase, and when it had got to the top, it knocked on the door and cried, Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. She ran out to see who was outside, but when she opened the door, there sat the frog in front of it. Then she slammed the door to, in great haste, sat down to dinner again, and was quite frightened. The king saw plainly that her heart was beating violently, and said, My child, what art thou so afraid of? Is there perchance a giant outside who wants to carry thee away? Ah, no, she replied. It is no giant, but a disgusting frog. What does a frog want with thee? Ah, father, yesterday I was in the forest sitting by the well, playing. My golden ball fell into the water, and because I cried so, the frog brought it out again for me, and because he insisted so on it, I promised him he should be my companion. But I never thought he would be able to come out of his water, and now he is outside there and wants to come in to me. And in the meantime it knocked a second time and cried, Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. Dost thou not know what thou saidst to me yesterday by the cool waters of the fountain? Princess, youngest princess, open the door for me. Then said the king, That which thou hast promised must thou perform. Go and let him in. She went and opened the door, and the frog hopped in and followed her, step by step, to her chair. There he sat and cried, Lift me up beside thee. She delayed until at last the king commanded her to do it. When the frog was once on the chair, he wanted to be on the table, and when he was on the table, he said, Now push thy little golden plate near to me, that we may eat together. She did this, but it was easy to see that she did not do it willingly. The frog enjoyed what he ate, but almost every mouthful she took choked her. At length he said, I have eaten and am satisfied. Now I am tired. Carry me into thy little room and make thy little silken bed ready, and we will both lie down and go to sleep. The king's daughter began to cry, for she was afraid of the cold frog, which she did not like to touch, and which was now to sleep in her pretty clean little bed. But the king grew angry and said, He who helped thee when thou wert in trouble ought not afterwards to be despised by thee. So she took hold of the frog with 2 fingers, carried him upstairs, and put him in a corner. But when she was in bed, he crept to her and said, I am tired. I want to sleep as well as thou. Lift me up, or I will tell thy father. Then she was terribly angry, and took him up, and threw him with all her might against the wall. "Now thou wilt be quiet, odious frog," she said. But when he fell down, he was no frog, but a king's son with beautiful, kind eyes. He, by her father's will, was now her dear companion and husband. Then he told her how he had been bewitched by a wicked witch, and how no one could have delivered him from the well but herself, and that tomorrow they would go together into his kingdom. Then they went to sleep, and the next morning, when the sun awoke them, a carriage came driving up with 8 white horses, which had white ostrich feathers on their head, and were harnessed with golden chains. And behind stood the young king's servant, Faithful Henry. Faithful Henry had been so unhappy when his master was changed into a frog that he had caused 3 iron bands to be laid around his heart, lest it should burst with grief and sadness. The carriage was to conduct the young king into his kingdom. Faithful Henry helped them both in and placed himself behind again, and was full of joy because of this deliverance. And when they had driven a part of the way, the king's son heard a cracking behind him, as if something had broken. So he turned around and cried, "Henry, the carriage is breaking." "No, master, it is not the carriage. It is a band from my heart, which was put there in my great pain when you were a frog and imprisoned in the well." Again, and once again, while they were on their way, something cracked, and each time the king's son thought the carriage was breaking. But it was only the bands which were springing from the heart of Faithful Henry, because his master was set free and was happy. The end. So, it is up to you to take away the moral of the story from that. I very much enjoyed it, and I'm very excited for the next story. And if you want more videos like this, let me know. And I just want to thank you so much for watching. I wish you all the best year with 2022, and I hope you have a wonderful day today. You know what they say, 7th time is a charm. They said, what? Please say it recorded the whole time.